11.3, we continue to talk about roots and factors of polynomials. Those are the words of our chapter. A polynomial is just a problem like this that's made up of many terms. If it had only 2 terms, that would be called a binomial. 3 terms is a trinomial. This has 5 terms, so that doesn't have a special name that I'm aware of, although it probably does, like a quintinomial or something like that, probably. The factors are the parentheses groups that we can make out of them. So this would be a factor, this would be a factor, and then the roots are just numbers that are solutions that make those polynomials 0, 5, 7, -3, numbers like that. So it's just a rule of math that if you have a polynomial of a certain degree, the degree is the highest power of the polynomial. If you have a polynomial, on the notes I wrote, if you have a polynomial of degree n, you can make it into n factors. I just mean if we have a 4th power problem, we can make 4 factors. If I have a 5th power problem, I can make 5 factors. If I have a 3rd power problem, I can make 3 factors. You're most used to seeing 2nd power quadratic equations and have 2 factors. This one I've already factored for you. In the homework, you'll start off with a series of problems. They've already factored them for you. And they're going to ask you to identify what are the roots. So this polynomial with 4th power, we got this factor 3 times, and we got this factor once. And the 3 doesn't really count for much of anything. But each of these factors is going to give you a number called a root. This factor is giving you a root, which is 2. Now don't get this confused with square roots. If I want to talk about square roots, I'll specifically say square roots. In this chapter, when I'm talking about roots, I'm just talking about numbers like this, that if we put them into the problem, it makes the problem become 0. This will always have an opposite sign of that. Today we have a new word, which is the word multiplicity. Since this factor happened 3 times, this root has a multiplicity of 3. The multiplicity is just a reference to how many times did this occur because the factor occurred that many times. This has another root. Because of this factor, we have -1 also being a root. The multiplicity of this root would just be a 1. Anytime we don't see a power, there is a 1 there. If this had like a 7, it would have a multiplicity of 7. That didn't happen. But the multiplicity is just the same as the power that caused the root to happen. Factors are the x parentheses groups. Roots are the numbers that go with them. Just switch the signs to make that transition. Second thing they'll do in the homework for you is tell you what the roots are and ask you to create the polynomial. So if you're told to find a polynomial that has -1x or -1 and 2 and 5 as roots, if there are 3 roots, make yourself 3 factors. Factors always start with x's, and the signs are opposite between the factors and the roots. So with a -1 root, do an x plus 1 factor. With a +2, go x minus 2. With a +5, go x minus 5. And that would be sort of like a beginner phase polynomial. The question is, should we multiply those out? The book has in mind, yes, every time. I have in mind, let's do it like half the time. So any even numbered problem that looks like this, I do want you to FOIL it out. Any odd numbered problem, just leave the parentheses, and that's fine. If we did want to FOIL this out, you'd pick any 2, doesn't matter which 2. I'll pick those 2. We FOIL these. X times x is x squared. -2 times x is -2x. -5 times x is -5x. Together that's -7x. -2 times -5 is +10. And then we're like halfway home. You pick 2 of them and you FOIL 2 of them. To finish it, then this has to FOIL with this. X has to multiply all 3 of these. So x cubed minus 7x squared plus 10x 1 has to multiply all of those. So a positive x squared minus a 7x plus a 10. And I just stacked those as I did that so like terms could line up. Grand total there, I'd have an x cubed minus 6x squared plus a 3x plus a 10. So on an even question, I want that answer because you FOILed it. On an odd question, I'm happy just writing the parentheses and just get out of there. Third thing they'll have you do on the homework is do some answers based on what I'm going to call a buy one, get one free sale. If you ever have a complex number, and that means anything with an I in it, be a root, automatically buy one, get one free, so is its conjugate. So if 2 plus 3i works, 2 minus 3i also works. Conjugate was just a word that meant we switched the sign with the I. So if this is an answer, this is also an answer. Buy one, get one free. So if you're ever told 5i works, negative 5i also works. If they say 2 plus root 3i, then 2 minus root 3i. Whatever worked, if it had an I in it, switch the sign where the I is, and that thing will also work. If this had been a minus, the buy one, get one free sale would have gotten you a plus version of it. Just switch that sign. The same buy one, get one free sale works with square roots also. So if I tell you square root of 2 is a winner, negative square root of 2 is a winner. If I tell you 2 plus root 3 works, 2 minus root 3 works. So they're going to have you work this buy one, get one free sale on 479, 19 to 24, you're just working a buy one, get one free sale. They'll give you a list of answers, and you're able to create some more answers on the buy one, get one free sale. If I tell you 6 is an answer, that's a dead end. 6 doesn't, it's not a complex number. There's no I. There's no square root there. Okay, the buy one, get one free sale only works for I's and for square roots. So I think some of those problems, they'll give you a list like 2, negative 3, 4 plus 6i, and 2 minus root 3. And say, make more answers on the buy one, get one free sale. 2 doesn't help you. Negative 3 doesn't help you. 4 minus 6i is an answer by doing the conjugate. 2 plus root 3 is an answer by doing a conjugate. You only do the conjugates of square roots and i's to make these additional answers. Then they put these two groups together. Here I gave you a list of roots and you made some factors. Here we figured out if you had a list of roots, there might be some more roots you could create on the buy one, get one free sale. What they're going to do on the next group of the homework is say, find a polynomial that has certain roots, but you're going to have to figure out that those roots bring some partners about. So if they throw you a 1 minus root 2, you throw back a 1 plus root 2. They throw you a 1 plus 2i, you throw back a 1 minus 2i. So even though they only gave you 2 answers, they really gave you 4. So you would have to set yourself up 4 factors. Every factor starts with an x. And to complete the factors, it just comes down to switching all the signs. Taking a walk to the left. Here we had a 5, we switched the sign to be minus 5. Positive 2 was a minus 2. Negative 1 became a plus 1. We're just going to switch all the signs on all these pieces. So this piece, I'd go minus 1 and plus root 2. Here I'd go minus 1 and minus root 2. Here I'd go minus 1 and minus 2i. Here I'd go minus 1 and plus 2i. And then you would hope that is an odd question, because if it's an odd question, we just let that sit. If it were an even question, the book thinks we'll FOIL that out and I will ask you to do that. I don't think there's any that are quite that big in there. There are not. There's nothing that's that big to FOIL out So I am not going to FOIL that one out right now, because if I did, it would be sort of scary, and it would be bigger than anything you're going to have to do in that one. But if you did have to FOIL something out that has roots and eyes, FOIL the ones that look the most similar, because you get a lot of elimination on that. For example, if you take these three and you FOIL with these three, we would temporarily get 9 things. And again, there's nothing this big on the homework, so I don't want to do this. But if we did FOIL out these two, there would be a positive root 2 and an x, but later there would be a negative root 2 and an x, and those would just disappear. We'd get from these like a negative root 2. This would get me a positive root 2. Those would vanish. There'd be a lot of elimination if you FOIL the ones that look similar to each other. Likewise, if we FOIL this out, which I don't want to do, we'd get a lot of eliminations. Like here's a negative 2i with an x, here's a positive 2i with an x. There'd be a ton of stuff that would just vanish. For a moment, 3 items times 3 items would make 9, but not for very long. If you want to FOIL that out to be a giant show-off, just to see if you could do it, I have the answer on there if you did FOIL it out, but I didn't show all the little steps of getting there, and I don't want to do that now, because like I said, the homework will do some FOILing, but nothing that's going to have like that much stuff in it. The last group we're going to do is sort of a pickup of where we were on the previous lesson, which is trying to solve some equations again. If they give us a problem like this, we're going to bring back our synthetic division abilities again today. If they give us a problem like this with an x to the 4th, that's probably going to have 4 solutions, 4 roots. What they're going to do today to get us started is give us an answer. And they did that a little bit on the previous homework. There were some that gave us an answer to get us started, others we were on our own. But they're going to give us this problem and tell us that I is a root. So when they give you a root, you just put that in the box unchanged. If they gave you a factor, if they said like x plus 2 is a factor, then negative 2 needs created to go in the box. That isn't going to happen tonight, but it happened on the previous and it'll happen again. If they give you a factor, you do a sign switch to synthetic divide. But if they just give you a single number for the root, just put that in the box. So I is a root, I goes in the box, we're going to synthetic divide. I guarantee you 0 is the answer here. If they're telling you it is a root, you can trust them. You should get 0 here. If you don't, you messed something up. So here's synthetic dividing again. You drop the number from the first position. Anything from the bottom row multiplies by this. 1 times I is I. Add those together. 1 plus I is the best you can do. Always add down to make that bottom row. Bottom row times the box. 1 times I, and also I times I. It's like a distributing problem. This, both, multiply by the I. So that's an I plus an I squared. You have to remember from prior lessons, I squared is negative 1. So instead of writing plus I squared, that's a minus 1. Add those down as I minus 2. This multiplies that. I times I is I squared. Negative 2 times that as well. Adding eliminates the 1s to get negative 2i. Negative 2i times that is negative 2i squared, which is positive 2. Adding does get the 0 because I got a 0. I know I'm good. If I didn't get a 0, I would have redone it. I had to get 0 here. This was x to the 4th. So now I'm down to having a problem that is x to the 3rd. So I need to go again. What we did some on the previous homework was guess. We don't have to guess here. We have a buy one, get one free sale. We learned about one column of problems ago. If I is a root, I guarantee you that negative I will also be a root. So I'm going to throw negative I in the box, and I'm going to go again, and I know for an absolute certainty I will get a 0 here. If I don't get a 0 there, I messed up, and I should try that level again. Synthetic dividing, we drop this. This times what's in the box, add down, multiply by what's in the box. add down, multiply by what's in the box, and I get 0. This is now an x squared problem. Every time we do a level, we decrease the power. So that's an x and that's a number. And we hope that we can factor. If we can, great. In this case, minus means signs are different. So we're trying to subtract to make a 1, multiply to make a 2. That can be done. The plus would take the bigger number, minus takes the smaller number. So this tells me negative 2 is an answer. This tells me 1 is an answer. The negative I on the buy one get one free sale is an answer. We were asked to find the other ones. With an x to the 4th problem, there should be 4 answers. They gave us one of them, so we did get the other 3, and we're good. So that's the way that homework is going to finish up. We're on 479 with that. We're skipping the 3s, so don't do 3, 6, 9, 12. Skip those. Working from 1 to 43. Same problem types in the same order as what I did them on the board. If you need some help, email me, we'll Zoom.